Does your new job require proper business attire and you are not sure what you need to buy, which details and rules you need to consider? In this video, I will help you to assemble a proper business outfit. I will give you a few hints and warn you about some traps. Welcome to the Soft Skill channel. My name is Sebastian Jung and today's topic is proper business attire. As you might know, there are plenty of rules around that. But I wonder, who is it who's making the rules? Who gets to decide what is proper business clothing and what is not? No one, actually. That's exactly the problem. There isn't any highest authority here. It's basically like that. On the one hand, we have old traditions. For example, the English high society of the old days had elegant clothing for the city, for business and things like that, and functional clothing for the countryside. And this functional clothing usually was brown or green, so up to this day, brown and green are considered less formal, less elegant than, let's say, blue or gray. On the other hand, we have the everyday reality, what people are actually wearing, the clothing you see on the streets. In this case, we rarely see any brown suits. However, we frequently see brown shoes, and they appear even in formal business environments and are well established nowadays. And in between tradition and everyday reality, we have the experts, such as style guides or trainers for business etiquette, and they try to give good advice, and they either lean towards tradition or towards modern everyday reality. And that's the reason you sometimes find contradicting advice in different articles. Someone who's leaning towards tradition might say, "Brown shoes? You can't be serious. You can't wear brown shoes." While someone who leans towards everyday reality might say, "Brown shoes, no problem. You might wear a brown suit as well. It's perfectly all right." So that's the reason for contradicting advice. There is, however, one rule of thumb you might want to remember. Less is more. For example, everything that is flashy, that creates a lot of attention, like bright, intense colors, flashy patterns, additional details, additional decorations, those make an outfit or a piece of clothing less elegant, less formal, and less appropriate for business attire. Let me give you an example. If you have a look at the pocket of my jacket, it's sewn in from the inside, so all you see from the outside is this decorative flap. Now, if the entire pocket would be sewn on from the outside, if the entire pocket would be visible, this wouldn't be a suit jacket anymore, but merely a sports jacket. One more thing we should clarify right at the beginning. Before you buy anything, make sure you check whether your company has its own dress code, because some companies do, and this dress code might contain additional rules you need to follow in addition to the standard ones, and it might even sometimes contradict the standard rules. So make sure you know if your company has a dress code and what's in it. Now, the rules might also be a bit different depending on your line of business. For example, clothing tends to be less formal in creative jobs such as marketing. However, in this video, I expect that you need full, proper business attire with a suit and everything. And with that, we have the first piece of clothing you will need. Gentlemen need a business suit, a two-part suit that has a jacket and pants. There are also three-part suits that also include a vest, but you don't need that. Ladies get to choose between a pantsuit that includes pants, obviously, and a jacket and skirt combination that includes a skirt. If you go for the skirt, please note that you always need to wear nylon stockings or a pantyhose, because bare legs would be inappropriate for business attire. As for colors, I recommend dark blue, dark gray, or medium gray. The rules are less strict for ladies, but still I recommend to choose from those three. Those put you on the safe side. Black is kind of a trap. Some people think, oh well, I'm expected to dress formally, so I buy black because black is very formal. And that isn't exactly wrong. Black is the most formal color. However, your workday isn't the most formal occasion. Black is for evening events. In your workday, black is not appropriate unless you are an undertaker, or unless your company's dress code specifically requests it. In Germany, this typically happens for law firms or for banks, so it occurs sometimes. So, as I said, it's very important to know about your dress code, your company's dress code. Next, you need a shirt or a blouse. Gentlemen buy a long sleeve shirt, always long sleeve. That is very important. You get to choose from white, light blue, or you might also get other light pastel colors. A lady's blouse can also have short sleeves. However, the shoulders should be completely covered. For the color, for ladies, it is important not to show too much bare skin. Gentlemen get to choose between the classic spread collar or the modern cutaway collar. For gentlemen, the so-called button-down collar is kind of a trap. Those are the ones that have little buttons at the edges of the collars. Now, when you encounter those for the first time, you probably think, oh, those have little buttons to keep the tie in place. Now that's useful, I'll buy those. But actually, the background is entirely different. Those button-down collars come from sports, from polo to be exact. When the Old English played polo, those buttons made sure that the collar wouldn't flutter in the wind. And obviously sportswear is not appropriate for formal and elegant clothing, so you must never combine a button-down collar with a tie. Nowadays it is perfectly alright to wear a shirt with a button-down collar to a suit. However, you must not wear a tie in this case. Next, you need said tie if you are a gentleman. I wouldn't recommend the one that has the little Mickey Mouse characters, but rather you should get a plain unicolor one, or one that has stripes. With those, you're on the safe side. Regarding colors, don't buy black, that is for funerals. Light beige is for weddings, and white is for I think judges or state attorneys, something like that, and it is also used for weddings. Other colors are fine. The tie is the one piece of clothing that is allowed to be a bit more colorful. However, you should still avoid colors that are too bright, too flashy. Oh, I learned an interesting fun fact while I did the research for this video. So, here I have a striped tie. Now this is a European tie, so if you are American, the ones you have probably have stripes going in the other direction, so not like this, but like this. So if you look at the stripes, you can tell apart American and European businessmen, it seems. I didn't know that before, was interesting to read that. About jewelry. For men, the only pieces of jewelry that are appropriate for a business outfit are a wristwatch, wedding ring, and maybe cufflinks. However, you usually only wear cufflinks if you are in a rather high position or for formal evening events. So cufflinks are probably out of not a choice for most of you. For ladies, the rules are less strict. However, remember the rule of thumb, less is more. So wear only few pieces, and pieces that are small and not too flashy, not too loud. Next, you need shoes. Gentlemen choose derbies or Oxfords. Ladies go for closed-toe leather shoes that have heels that aren't too high. As for the color, I recommend black. As you know, brown is also okay, but black is still a bit better. Here again, the rule of thumb applies. Have a look. This is an Oxford and a derby. This one is the Oxford. As you can see, the part that contains the shoelaces is a bit different. It is closed for the Oxfords, open for the derbies. Oxfords are a bit more elegant, a bit more formal, but it's a minor difference. And here you can see that this Oxford has a so-called cap toe. Now this is obviously an additional detail, so it makes the shoe a bit less formal, but it's not a major difference. However, there are also shoes that have additional decoration, a pattern of small holes. This is called, depending on the amount, quarter broke, half broke, full broke. And with that, the shoes are considerably less formal and should better be worn to a casual outfit. And with that, you're done. You have a complete outfit consisting of a suit, a shirt or blouse, shoes, and if you are a gentleman, a tie. Now with that, you are ready for your entry into an formal business environment. And once you have some more experience, note what your co-workers are wearing. You will get a feel for what is appropriate in your specific environment, in your specific company. For example, at least in Germany nowadays, in a lot of companies, people also wear shirts with short sleeves, even though this is considered a big faux pas in regard to tradition. And of course, if everyone else is wearing them, it's all right for you to wear them as well. Before we finish, there are a few additional points I would like to mention. The first is correct fit. Now, it would obviously be a shame if you buy an expensive suit and it ends up not looking good on you because it doesn't properly fit. So what I recommend is, first, that you don't order your suit online, but that you go into a local store where you can try it on and see if it looks good. And furthermore, I recommend that you bring a friend who can have a look from the outside and tell you whether it looks good, from the back and everything. And you might also want to ask the salespeople, because they obviously have a lot of experience and they know which areas specifically need to be checked. You might need to shorten the sleeves of your jacket or the length of your pants. For the jacket, the rule of thumb is that the sleeve of your shirt should be visible just a bit. And for your pants, it is important that they touch the shoe, but just barely. So there is just a single wrinkle, just a single break, and it doesn't look like an accordion. Furthermore, it's important, if you wear formal business clothing, that you are also clean and well groomed, that your hair is all right, that your nails are fine. Gentlemen need to make sure that they are properly shaven, or the beard is well groomed. Ladies should make sure that the makeup is low-key and not too flashy. And you should also make sure that your outfit is in a good condition, especially your shoes, because dirty shoes may leave a rather bad impression. I recommend that you get a big soft brush, and before you put your shoes on, you give them a shine and remove dust with that soft brush. And you should also polish them regularly using some shoe cream, shoe polish. Traditionalists do this every day, like in the old days when the butler did it. However, you don't need to overdo it. Oh, another detail that is important because I frequently see it done wrong. For your jacket, you only close the top of the two buttons. The bottom button is only for decoration. You don't actually use it. You don't actually close it. If your jacket has 3 buttons, the rule is sometimes, always, never. So you always close the middle one. You might close the top one in addition as you prefer, but again, you never close the one at the bottom. This is important because, this pretty much gives away people who have no idea about what they are wearing and how it's supposed to work. Last, there are the costs, because the whole thing will be rather expensive. A medium quality suit is rather expensive. It is usually made from wool. A cheap suit is made from synthetic fibers. So this is also a question about how comfortable it will be to wear it in the end. No matter if it's wool or synthetic fiber, your suit requires dry cleaning. What is usually done is you have at least 2 suits and you wear them in a kind of rotation. So for example, the blue suit on Monday, gray suit on Tuesday, blue again on Wednesday, and so on. And the one you don't wear, you hang it up on the line, whatever. So the wrinkles have time to get straight again, and it has time to completely dry and to get some air between being worn 2 times. And it works the same for shoes. You usually have at least 2 pairs of shoes. You wear the first one on Monday, second on Tuesday, first again on Wednesday, and so on. And so in between they have time to dry and get back into shape. So you need 2 suits and 2 pairs of shoes usually. And of course you also need a couple of shirts, 5 or 6 at least, so you can get through an entire week before you need to wash them. Furthermore, for the suit, the jacket usually lasts longer than the pants. So what I recommend is get a suit where jacket and pants are sold separately and buy 2 pairs of pants, because you won't be able to get a new pair later. Even for suits, there is the summer collection and the winter collection, and yes, the new collection will be dark blue and dark gray as well. However, it will be a slightly different shade, so the new pants won't match your old jacket, and you should never wear a combination of a jacket and pants that don't match, that don't have exactly the same color. This would be a faux pas. So you won't be able to get new pants later. So better buy 2 ones right from the beginning. I don't have any experience how long the skirts usually last, but the pants usually are worn out much faster than the jackets. Now, if you make sure you get a suit that fits you properly, and if you make sure you are overall well groomed, and if you make sure you are able to deal with all the costs in some way, you should be well prepared for proper business attire and for a business environment. By the way, do you like to wear a suit, or is it more of a bothersome necessity for you? Let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to your feedback. And while you're at it, you might also want to click the thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before. We will see each other next week when I do the book review for Factfulness by Hans Rosling. Until then, I'll take my leave. Have a nice day. See you next time.